welcome at Twende Shule, the project that offer online teaching in various subjects. So today we are going to proceed with the subject which is history. As I told you before, that according to Cicero, those who know history, they condemn themselves not knowing about their future. So if you want to know your future, you must study history. Therefore, now we are going to the second topic in Form 4 about nationalism and decolonization in Africa. Nationalism and decolonization in Africa. Maybe before we start discussing our topic, we must know that Africa as a continent passed through various fates. Since the first phase in the development of capitalism, which is mercantilism, as I told you, that it started from 1450 to 1750, the first stage in the lives of capitalism. Africa affected much from that stage, whereby during the mercantilism is where most of the Africans were taken to America, were taken to Caribbean. So Africans were taken from their own civilization, then they were sent to another civilization to work there, because it was the period for slave trade, the business that was known as transatlantic slave trade. So when slave trade and slavery lost its shine and shine, the European introduced another pernicious enterprises that was called legitimate trade. So it was legitimate trade to the Europeans, not to the Africa. That's why for the Afrocentric view, we are not naming it as a legitimate trade, but we are saying it was an equal exchange that replaced the human trafficking by transporting raw material and manufactured goods, the exchange of goods. They were no longer exchanging human being. Human being was no longer sold in the market as other products. Therefore, in order to introduce another pernicious enterprise that was called colonialism, that when capitalism rised to its highest stage, which is monopoly capitalism, it created a problem whereby the solution were to be sought in Africa. So various European nations came in Africa in order to seek for solution, to get the area for market, area for cheap labor, area for investment, area for surplus population, and the area to invest their capital. Therefore, for too long, for almost 80 years, if not 100 years, Africans were under colonial domination. But it came a time when Africans started to realize that we all were born equal. Why are we dominated by other civilizations? So they started to struggle for their independence. They wanted to regain their freedom, that they were free before. But after the colonization, Africans were no longer free. Now they started to claim for their own independence. They started to claim for their own freedom. So that movement was called nationalism. Therefore, the product of nationalism was the decolonization of Africa. Therefore, let us start by definition. We can say nationalism is a feeling of a national consciousness or awareness by the people that are the members of a nation and desire freedom from foreign domination. It is the feeling of nationhood, to belong to a certain country. So generally, the term nationalism means feeling of nationhood, feeling of freedom, desire of freedom, political will to be free from foreign domination. Therefore, coming to the African nationalism, we can say is the desire of African people to terminate all forms of foreign rule. It was the desire, the political will of African people to terminate all forms of foreign rule. As I said that for too long, almost 80 to 100 years, Africans were dominated by Western civilization. Therefore, they started to have a desire to terminate all forms of foreign rule. So it was a political will of African people in opposition to colonial domination. It entails African struggle against Western colonization and imperialism. Therefore, this is what entails about nationalism. Political struggle to regain our own independence. Political desire, political will to regain our lost independence, to regain our lost freedom. So we were free before, but after the colonization, we were no longer free. So we started to claim our own independence, to claim our own freedom. And that is what entails in the term nationalism in Africa. Then coming to decolonization means to remove or to smash away all forms of colonialism, all traits of colonialism, all legacies of colonialism. And I can say maybe up to date we are still decolonizing our continent because there is element of colonialism. Because, you know, when colonialism lost its shine and shine, we transformed it to another pernicious enterprises that was called neo-colonialism, whereby the metropolitan country dominated the African state indirectly, maybe through foreign direct investment. They dominated them through initiating their political culture to the Africans. So we were dominated even after the colonization. So we still have a long journey towards the colonization of Africa. Therefore, when we speak about nationalism in Africa, we may have proto-nationalism or the earliest nationalism or the foremost nationalism and proper nationalism, or we call it mass nationalism. Discussing about proto-nationalism is not our case here. Here we are going directly to discuss about mass nationalism or proper nationalism. So proto-nationalism, I think you discussed in Form 3 in the first topic and the second topic about colonialism and African reaction towards colonial domination. So when the African reacted, the African chiefs, including Mkwawa, Ufuhehe, Machemba, Mirambo, Isike, Abushiri, Omar bin Makunganya, that was termed as a proto-nationalism, that the African desired to have their own freedom. But here we are speaking about mass nationalism or proper nationalism. Therefore, discussing about proper nationalism, we may have two categories of factor: the internal factor for the rise of mass nationalism and the external factor for the rise of mass nationalism. Therefore, the internal factor are those causes or impetus which occurred within Africa without the external influence. But the external factor or international factor for the rise of mass nationalism, we are speaking about those factors which were exercised out of the African continent. Therefore, allow me to take you through a tour of the external forces for the rise of mass nationalism in Africa. External forces or external factors for the rise of mass nationalism in Africa. The first reason for the rise of mass nationalism in Africa are the external factor or the impact of the Second World War. As we know that the world entered to another destructive military conflict from 1939 to 1945, as we have discussed before, that after the Second World War, something happened which triggered the African people to struggle for their independence, which triggered the African people to have political will to desire for their own freedom. Therefore, how the Second World War was a watershed or was a turning point in the rise of mass nationalism in Africa. In the previous lesson, we discussed it very much.